Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Is it you, Josie?
Yes, it is.
Hello.
Who have I got here? I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to Zoom. So, you're both there. Perfect. Apparently I can pin you. So I'm just going to see how I can do that.
Okay.
I'm going to do Jenna. Okay, that should work now. If not, it doesn't matter. Okay. We're recording, just letting everyone know.
Trying to get the lighting right.
Yeah, mine is a bit...
Got the sun pouring in at the back, so I've shut one of the curtains, but I can't really tell what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, we can see you, Jenna.
What, can you? Yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for making it this morning. This is our Homebirth New South Wales webinar. We're celebrating Homebirth Awareness Week this week, and we're really excited to be hosting a week of incredible virtual events for all of our followers. So we're giving you an insight into various aspects of planning your upcoming birth, motherhood, and postpartum, which is my favorite. You can see all the events on our website, homebirthnewsouthwales.org.au, and just click on events. Homebirth New South Wales is a not-for-profit organisation run by committed, passionate volunteers who are dedicated to educating and supporting women who wish to give birth at home. So I've been part of this group for the last 4 years, and I look after the advertising, marketing. I'm also the vice president. We shuffle around a little bit, but it's been wonderful. So we reach not just New South Wales, we're going Australia-wide, actually, for any families that want to be part of us. Homebirth New South Wales provides families information and support in their pregnancy and birth journey, including linking women to an incredible list of home birth midwives and other services, including doulas, birth photographers, postpartum meals, and anyone who looks after home birthing families. Home Birth Awareness Week is an international event where we aim to shine a light on the safety and incredible benefits obtained by birthing at home and support those who are seeking home birth by welcoming them into our local and statewide communities. Home birth is a very safe option for low-risk women who want to have a more natural birth and reduce the risk of birth intervention. Birthing at home with a midwife in attendance is the safest birthing in a hospital for mother and baby, but also reduces maternal morbidity. Home birth reduces the chances of severe perinatal tearing, cesarean sections, instrumental birth, inductions, and epidural use, and increases the likelihood of a physiological vaginal birth, typically while providing you with the comfort and safety of your own home and a known-to-use skilled care provider. As you see in the events of this week, there are many positives to birthing at home. So hopefully these sessions will provide more information for birthing families and those interested in home birth. And I just want to do a last plug for our raffle, which Jenna has generously donated to. For $20, you can buy a raffle ticket and be in the running to win one of 3 prize packs worth $1,500 each. So you've got a photography package, lots of different herbs, carriers, meals, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, we hope you enjoy this session. We also have Active Truth, which supply the most amazing activewear for mamas, and they are sponsoring this week. So everyone attending gets a $50 voucher, and I'm going to post that picture of the QR code that you can scan at the end of the session. God, wish me luck. So I'm going to introduce the 2 lovely women joining us today. We've got Kait, who's a holistic nutritionist, birth doula, and postpartum doula from My Earth Mama Wellness. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Maybe just chat about yourself a little bit more so we get to learn about you.
Yeah, just a quick intro. So I started out as a nutritionist and was very interested in women's health, specifically pregnancy and postpartum. And then carried on to become a birth doula. I realized there was this huge section of postpartum that wasn't really so I wanted to wrap around knowledge, my birth knowledge, and kind of care. I was previously working as a private chef as well, so kind of just intertwining all my little pieces into one. So yeah, I'm a practicing postpartum doula, supporting women in any way that I can through their birth and postpartum.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing. And we've got Jenna joining us from Meals4Mummas. She has actually, we've ordered through Meals4Mummas, I think, for 3 or 4 of our volunteers now. So comes highly recommended. And just give us a little introduction of yourself, Jenna.
Great, will do. So I entered the birth world after I had my first daughter in 2014. So it's been a journey. You know, they say that you know, having our children will teach us the most about ourselves and what have you, and that was certainly the truth for me. Like, as soon as I realized I had a baby girl in my arms, my whole perception of the world changed. And so I left my corporate world and career and started training to become a doula. So I'm a birth and postpartum doula and a placenta specialist. And it was through that work of supporting, you know, obviously my own mothering journey and realizing, oh my goodness, like, where is the support for women and how do we navigate this terrain to really feel empowered in a, you know, in an environment where we're just learning so much, you know, and just to have that support and what have you, and being in homes with new parents and making meals for them as a postpartum doula, that the progression for me led to Meals4Mummas, which was making Ayurvedic postpartum meals to support new families on their parenting journey, but more importantly, really focusing on the mum and taking care of her so that she can take care of her babies. And you know, I'm a real fan of home birth. I have got 3 children and I had my 3rd in a home birth setting, and you know, that environment of immediately, you know, having that integration with my already existing children, my family, and my new baby, but then also having the food provided for me straight away by my doula, and just being able to be so relaxed in my home environment and having all these other components really supporting my journey really got me putting Meals4Mummas in place. So yeah, that's a bit.
That's amazing, Jenna. I have to, I started volunteering for home birth as well 4 years ago after birthing my son Zeppelin at home. And yeah, I didn't really know anything about the 4th trimester as such. You know, it was great being at home, but then my partner had to go back to work really soon after. And I was like, okay, so I didn't really take care of my body as such as I would have liked to in hindsight. And then having had my second son 16 months ago, obviously different set of circumstances, we were kind of due to lockdowns and this, I wasn't really able to go as freely as I would have liked anyway. But I had a wonderful postpartum doula, and oh my goodness, I just stayed in bed for like nearly a solid 2 to 3 weeks. I had my mum helping, the food was coming. I didn't do any cleaning, no washing, no anything. And I was like, wow, okay, this is the difference of healing properly in your own home and having people part of your birthing team that actually look after you, your postpartum, because, you know, I had intense after pains with my second son, and it was wonderful to not have to leave the bed to do anything and just have a constant flow of food being brought to me, and just my mum took on a role of a doula at some stage, but it's just thought it's really important for us to understand that the 4th trimester is such a huge part of you going from being a single woman to a mother, or from a mother of 1 to 2 to 3, whatever. That 4th trimester is just not spoken about enough, in my opinion, of how important it is and what we can actually do ourselves to create this environment, and where we could invest a little more, to help us heal and maybe produce more breast milk, etc. We get to that. So I have a few questions for Kait. First of all, could you chat to us a little bit about the 4th trimester and how you started your journey as a doula, and seeing how you could maybe assist women in healing further?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not a mother, and I think this comes as a surprise for some people, and for some people that's challenging as well to work with someone who's not a mother. For me, I feel I have the strength and capacity to do this work, because I'm not a mother yet myself. So yeah, I think what really triggered my journey is being in nutrition and really understanding more about the body, and then kind of taking this into my birth doula work. I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Oscar Saralak, the postnatal depletion cure. And that really was the first part where I realized that this really wasn't talked about. I was someone who was fascinated by pregnancy and birth and obsessed with it, and just obsessed with babies. And I really wasn't focusing on postpartum, and I didn't really realize it was such a big deal. So when I did realize that, and I did realize that this conversation wasn't really happening, I was so inspired to delve into that work from first a nutrition standpoint, and then becoming a postpartum doula and realizing that there actually is there is an opportunity to help women through this time, and to really support women. And once you start reading about the history of postpartum in other cultures, most other cultures except for the Western culture, to be honest, you realize that actually this has already been done. This is not new. This is just something that we've lost. So yeah, my work is really bringing that back, bringing that support back, understanding the transition that women are going through, the brain changes, the physical body changes, and seeing this as a power. It really is a superpower, the brain changes that happens for a woman during her pregnancy and postpartum is absolutely astounding. I mean, it is incredible. And women should really be really strongly supported in this, because if a woman is not feeling supported in her postpartum, and she is having to feel really stressed, or just feel depleted and not taken care of, it can really have quite profound effects on then herself and then her child as well. And I think another thing to note in this process is I think it's easy to think that this is coming from a privileged place, and that we need to have, lots of money and lots of time, and, don't have to work and things like that. But really, historically, postpartum, it's a right. It's not necessarily a privilege, it's a right. And everyone in the community would come together and support women. And it's not just about having to have the money to hire all these different people. I mean, you can just bring together your village, and you can do it in a really affordable way, even if your partner has to go back to work immediately, or you don't have the money to invest in some of these things. So yeah, really seeing it as a rite of passage rather than just a privilege and something that people can have if they've got the money and the funds to do that. I think is really important as well.
I think that's really, really important you say that, because I think home birthing as a general sometimes gets slammed with the privileged token, but it's, I think it's a really huge investment in your health and your future to have a home birth, that's just my decision, my opinion. But you're absolutely right. It's really important to create that village around you. And maybe you're not able to afford a doula right there and then, but there's definitely 3 or 4 mums that would help you cook. You can set up a meal train.
Yeah.
Washing. Honestly, the not having to do laundry for 2 weeks was a lifesaver for me.
Yeah.
It's something so simple that someone comes and just gives your house a quick hoover or a quick mop, or takes, if you have more than one child, maybe one of your friends can take your other child. That to me was super helpful. That I had friends that would help with my then 3-year-old who was going through his own transition. I think that adds to the 4th trimester too, that you can just land in a new body and in your new role. I thought that was quite important. So Jenna, what do you think? Is there a favorite nourishing dish or certain ingredients that for you are super important to heal that mum right at the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to kind of preface the physical transformation you've been through as, you know, a birthing woman. So then you can kind of understand why these types of foods, which you will actually crave. So nothing compares to giving birth. You know, we go from carrying our baby for 40 plus weeks, give or take, and you know that is a process within itself. But throughout that, the physiology of things that are changing in your system are quite significant. So, you know, as you're creating more space and room for your baby, your digestive system becomes really sluggish and slow, and you know your organs are being pushed all over the place just to keep making room for baby, which is, you know, really obviously important. And then we give birth and we go through this huge energy expenditure in every way, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, to go where we need to go to bring our baby earthside, you know. And we go from having a huge expanse of heat and water and fluid inside of us to birthing our babies, and we lose that as soon as our baby is born through that birthing process. So we lose the heat inside of us. We now have a large expanse of air and gas from where the baby was taking up that space, and it's now cool. So we need to, in order to regain our homeostasis or our balance, we need to regain that heat and bring that back into our body, and also eat specific foods that are going to feel good on our system. So our metabolic rate has slowed down, our digestive fire has pretty much left the building. So in terms of the foods that you won't even know this while you're pregnant, particularly, hey Kate, like, you know, you might want, like, while you're pregnant, you're having like a lot of cold smoothies, maybe still making your fresh salads and raw foods and things like that. But once you have your baby, that's not what your system wants. And if anything that is cold, raw, not cooked fully, will be very stressful on your system. So you're wanting sweet, oily, good whole food, quality foods. So things like, rice puddings and slow cooked meals and everything that's warm, that's your body, you know, it's like an immediate thing that you want. It's, you know, someone will put a cold glass of orange juice or, you know, in front of you. And I think this is to the point of, you know, if you are birthing in the hospital and you haven't got your food prepared, you're having food immediately that is to be you know, having that, knowing what you need immediately through every part of your process of becoming a mother is really important. So, you know, we want oily, sweet, easily digestible foods. It almost feels like a winter menu, you know, but you'll have that any time of your birth, you know, if you birth in summer or what have you.
And are there maybe from both of you some,
my connection,
it's kind of getting in and out, are there some resources maybe that you find particularly wonderful? So I remember I was reading the first 40 days and followed recipes from there, and I've since gifted it at least 3 times. And it's been kind of circulated. Everyone has re-gifted it. So is there, would you suggest something, would you suggest that book, or are there any like free resources for families maybe to have a look at some particularly great recipes, or maybe even something that their family can cook for them?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, talking to your family before baby arrives and giving them ideas of what you want. I know Village for Mama, they have an incredible recipe book that also has recipe cards to give out to your nearest and dearest. So whoever's in your inner circle. So if they're coming around, make me this meal. Also Nourishing Newborn Mothers, that is you can look online, and I think Julia Jones's recipe book is really reasonably priced as well. It's not, you know, you're not breaking the bank for it, but you know, the first 40 days, that's a great book. There's some really, and it talks about every part of your 4th trimester, so it gives you just such a good foundation into preparing for that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I second everything she said. I think in the postpartum world, there's some really amazing people doing incredible work. And there are a lot of free resources. First 40 days is also, you know, it's at my local library. I know it's appearing at lots of libraries, so it's a great resource to check out, and yeah, grab some recipes. And I think speaking from something you mentioned before, Josie, was asking for help is really such a huge piece of the postpartum that is really, really hard. And I think as women especially, this independence and this strength and this power is something that is kind of put on us in a way, and it's beautiful, and we do want to be strong and we want to be powerful. But in your postpartum, receiving is the biggest piece, you know, and asking for help. And, you know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it's a big hurdle to go through. But if you can start practicing that in your pregnancy, so that it's not a big deal in your postpartum, that can just be really helpful. So, you know, pre-planning and starting to think about, you know, who are the friends that you really know and trust, or the family that you can reach out to and say, these are the kind of meals that I would really love. If you want to do something for me postpartum, this is the gift that I would love, rather than getting, you know, baby clothes or things that you just don't need. So asking for help beforehand can just be a really good planning method that's free, doesn't take anything, and it's just a way for you to connect to your community prior to your postpartum, when you're still kind of in that headspace of planning, and you know, and to enable you to have some of that support.
I think that's really good that you brought that up. I did not know how to ask for help with my first, or not. I didn't even think that was an option, really weirdly. You know, I didn't want to inconvenience anyone. I'm like, I've decided to have this child. I'll get on with it.
Yeah.
And the second time around, anyone was like, what do you need? I'm like, I want food, and I want some tea. I want all the help. And even still now, I have 2 children, and sometimes, you know, I work. Even now, I still struggle to go, can someone help with one of my kids? And they're like, so easy. 4 people put their hands up and go, of course. I'm like, oh, it's actually not that hard. It's really, you're so right. We've been conditioned to believe independent woman, we've got to do it all by ourselves. But actually, we used to have a village, and that's kind of been removed from us. Let's bring it back. We, as an organization, obviously we all love Homebirth so much that we just all keep having babies at home. But there's someone pregnant all the time within our community, and we always collect money and buy cooked meals for the new mum, because we have all found that this is the biggest gift you can receive. Just to think one day, oh, what are we going to eat? But you've already got something delicious, pre-cooked, ready-made for you. It just takes a load off so much, and you feel nourished without, you know, what else do you grab that's quick? It's probably not that nourishing if you're being realistic. So to have something that's so nourishing, and your village has been able to take care of that, that's a real gift. I think you're so right. What are maybe some things that the family can do? Let's say you don't have all the money in the world for doula, or even to buy the pre-cooked meals. What can the family do to support the new mum? Who would like to
always
Go ahead, Jenna.
I'll be quick. But I always talk about this with my clients and mums about having this conversation before baby arrives, because once baby is in your arms, it's a lot harder to invite people in on your terms and have your postpartum already set up in a way that's going to support your healing and bonding with your baby. So whether or not the funds are there to invest in a meals or a doula, I always talk about, like, if in terms of gifts, like starting a postpartum fund that people might want to contribute to. But then also, sitting down as a birthing woman, sitting down with your partner and really talking about how you envisage this to be, and who you see around you at that time, and what are the key things that you want that you're going to need. And I think even having that conversation puts you in a place where you are starting to get in the mindset of receiving, because I think that is really a hard thing for new mamas, is that, and especially in our culture, like you've both touched on, is that we just don't do it well. We don't do it well here, but it is certainly a rite of passage. And if we don't take care of our mums, then it just filters down and how we can be the best parent and best for ourselves and all of those types of things. So let's talk about having that conversation, really kind of dissecting what you want your environment to look like and what are the most important things for you at that time, and then sending out, a communication to your family and friends who will be in your inner circle, because there will sometimes be people, who you probably don't think are going to be the best to be around. You might have a friendship where it's about you're like the main emotional support for that friend, and once you have a baby, you really don't want to be hearing about all those other things, and you need to be managing your stress, right? So putting out a communication to those people and saying, this is what this time means for us, this is how we're supporting us and being involved, do you want to be a part of it? And I think putting it back on them once you've put out there what your needs are is really important, because I think that's something we worry about a lot. Will they really want to come around and do a load of washing for me, or will they want to unload the dishwasher? But if you've kind of prefaced it already, when they come, they know what their job is, and really everyone wants to help, they just sometimes don't know how to help. So yeah, would you agree, Kait?
100%. Yeah, everything you said is exactly where I sit, as a postpartum doula. I think that communication during the pregnancy is so key, because everyone wants postpartum slightly differently, and I think tapping into what your unique postpartum style is. I talk to my clients about what do you want? Do you want lots of visitors? Does that make you feel supported? Or would you like more quiet time with your family? Do you want to be out when you can because that actually makes you feel better? Or do you want to stay inwards for a few weeks? For some people, staying inwards for the laying in period of 6 weeks is not comfortable. That gives them anxiety, thinking that they're going to be stuck inside. For some people, that's nourishing and that's just bliss. So I think it's really good to really tap into what you want, what your style is, and then communicating that to your circles. And if that's uncomfortable, it's a great opportunity to push through those discomforts when you're pregnant, and understand that, like Jenna said, everyone does really want to help. There's something about pregnancy and postpartum, there's this aura that you give off that everyone does want to help you. It's true, but sometimes people just don't know how. So communicating what you want is really great, and tapping into that. And in terms of the money, I think there's like a viral post going around on my Instagram feed right now about how much money is spent on your wedding, on your birth, and then postpartum, and it's like some of the figures are crazy. So I think if you are able to even set aside such a small amount, a weekly amount, to then have a savings and or asking friends and family if that's comfortable for you, to create just a little savings, I think that can be, and then doesn't feel like as big of an expense to have your baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jenna, you touched earlier on the physical. I mean, obviously it's hugely emotional, but I mean, you've given birth. It's a huge physical change. And you've spoken about how you need some warmth back in your body. Are there certain things that you've seen help with, for example, milk supply or the connection of the mum to the baby, and just a general tightening back of the uterus? And this sort of, are there things that you feel that really help? Certain foods that you think could increase milk supply?
Yeah. Well, look, I think it starts with our birth experience. Our birth experience directly impacts our postpartum. So, we've got a lot of healing that needs to happen after we give birth. The cogs are literally changing. You've gone from holding on to this pregnancy to having now released it. You've birthed your placenta, you've got a placental wound, you've got a lot of bleeding, and your uterus is contracting back down to its normal size of a pear from a watermelon. So that's huge. It's a huge amount of internally what's going on. And when we are talking about breastfeeding, yes, there are foods that you can eat certainly to help support your breast supply, your milk supply, but it's mainly around your stress and producing oxytocin to keep you feeling in a state of joy and being able to relax so that your body can do what it's designed to do. So if you're doing too many things too soon, hanging washing, trying to cook your own meals, do all those types of things, you're going to notice your postpartum bleeding will be heavier for longer. But the beauty of having a home birth is that you are home. You don't have to worry about transitions from home to hospital, hospital to home. You can immediately start developing that very sacred attunement to your baby. So, you're in bed, your baby's right next to you. I can speak from experience on this. When I had my third at home and he was just next to me in bed straight away, my breastfeeding, that was the easiest breastfeeding journey I had experienced with all three of my bubs, because he was so close to me. It's like that thing that was going on outside the womb, like he was like, there was this communication going on that I just knew when he was hungry, and I didn't have this engorgement, or there wasn't like a huge separation. And I think that really contributed so positively to that healing journey of not having to move around so much. And then in terms of the foods that you want to be having, we can talk about having your dates and your oats and all your warm foods, having specific your spices like nutmeg and cinnamon in your oats, and but lovely bit of coconut sugar or maple syrup, and it's all really rich and tastes really good, and it all supports your breastfeeding journey as well. But if you aren't balanced, if you are just eating well but doing all the other things, it's not going to support you. And what we're looking at here for our new moms is not creating a deficit, but let's create an abundance. Let's have that overflow of feel good. What is promoting that joy? What is, when because you will have wobbly days, like that's part of it, but you want to have the wobbly day not because you're tapped out from doing all the other things,
Absolutely. I can really vouch for that. With my first, I had mastitis nonstop. He also needed a little adjustment to help his latch on on my left side. But I think I had mastitis. I breastfed him for nearly 2 years. I think I had mastitis 6 times. And I've had one little bout with my second, and I've been breastfeeding him for 16 months. So the difference in my breastfeeding journey, and I thought my breastfeeding journey was going great with my first, you know, I just kind of, the mastitis, I'm like, I'm just going to power through as you do, keep pumping, keep doing this. And I was eating really well. And I was like, but I'm moving my body, I'm doing all the things. I'm just doomed to get mastitis. And now I look back at it, hindsight, you know, it's 2020 vision. So I look back at it now and go, oh, I could have really, actually, maybe I should have slowed way down and my breastfeeding would have been a little bit different. I had plenty of milk. It was more also the stress added to, I had to go back to work quite soon because I decided I had to go back to work. This time I didn't. And it just flowed quite literally much easier.
Absolutely.
Okay, what are have you seen some examples of that in your work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think Jenna raised a really good point in terms of, you know, yes, diet is important. Yes, nutrition is important, but really, fascinatingly, more important is really your body regulating the hormones and you feeling supported. And I think we often talk about oxytocin as this bonding hormone and connection, and it is that, but it also has such a huge role in breastfeeding, in your healing as well. So if you have higher levels of oxytocin, you will actually digest better, you will assimilate your nutrients better, you will breastfeed easier. So it really is that emotional aspect as well. And I think that's a piece that's often missed. You know, it's let's get the lactation cookies and the lactation tea and the lactation this and that. And it's important. However, what's also important is that, you know, feeling supported and having that oxytocin flowing, which really does help with your healing. And it's quite, oxytocin is really quite amazing. And I think, you know, they are doing more studies on oxytocin, but it's absolutely incredible and has just so many incredible benefits. So yeah, it's definitely that piece as well.
And as both of you as birth workers, as doulas, are there maybe, let's say you've had the baby and you're not feeling actually 100% great, more so emotionally, what are maybe some signs in a 4th trimester that you might need some extra bit of support, some emotional extra support, maybe from a professional? What are maybe some signs that you see in women and that woman can maybe notice? Because I know there's a huge stigma attached to maybe some postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. It's a lot less, I think, if you're birthing at home, but still it occurs. And are there maybe some first signs that you guys can see, and where can women reach out for some help?
Yeah.
Who would like to go first?
I think, you know, I think the exhaustion that the exhaustion that you didn't anticipate that you would feel as a new mum, you know, after we give birth, we, you know, generally our baby's pretty sleepy, but we've like got this adrenaline hit, you know, and it's really hard to bring ourselves back down to like just be like, okay, I can sleep now, I need to sleep. So what quite often that first 3-4 days we just do this, it's like this flip, you know, and really being able to get the rest that we need, so that once our milk starts coming in and you know, baby starts waking up and needs us a little bit more, it can be a real shock to the system. So I think that, how are you coping with the no sleep, and who do you have to help you? So one of the biggest questions I always get my mamas to ask is, who is your main support person and how long do you have them for? You know, it's not like, oh yeah, my husband's got 2 weeks off, but we've already got a toddler, so he's going to be looking after the toddler. No, that's not who's looking after you, that's who's looking after your toddler. So who's looking after you? And really making sure that they are taking care of you. And if not, I think that's when you start looking straight away, well, we need to plug some gaps. Let's be proactive, as opposed, I mean, but you know, if you're in it and you'll realize you need to do that, it's as soon as you start feeling like, you know, within yourself, just that you're not coping. And I think, and it's okay to not cope, because like Kate said, this used to be a village. It used to be a team effort. You know, you weren't in there on your own doing it all by yourself. So it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to get people in. And there's different organizations that do things a lot at reduced rates and things. You can get student doulas and people who are learning and different things like that if you can't afford to pay a qualified person. But yeah, don't be afraid. Don't let it go on too long, and then, you know, you're in a real pickle.
Yeah, I totally echo all of that. And I think something that I think really fascinating about Dr. Oscar's work with the postnatal depletion is, you know, those first 1 to 5 days after birth, your estrogen and your progesterone drop, and this causes your serotonin to drop as well. So that first 5 days, anxiety is quite normal, the sleep deprivation, the huge, you know, the huge load of energy that you've used to birth, that really does come into play. I've got, you know, my best friend in Canada just gave birth, and she's like, I just can't stop crying. And, you know, she's at her 4th day, and I said, just give it the 5 days, like, because even as a doula, we're kind of told, don't, maybe, you know, beware of those first 5 days. They're going to be very emotional. So that's also normal. And I think understanding that that is normal and that your body is going, you know, lots of hormone changes. The other thing to note is that some of these changes that happen in your brain can feel like anxiety, but Dr. Oscar also notes that this is some of those superpowers coming into play. So increased sensory, you know, feeling like you're almost more involved in the community in the larger world. So he speaks of it that these brain changes, instead of your survival mechanisms being I, they turn into we. So some women find that in their postpartum, they can't watch the news because it's so overwhelming to think of all the problems in the world, because they're thinking in a we space now. So that can feel like anxiety, and that can feel like, what's happened to me, all of a sudden I can't handle all this stuff. But if you realize that your brain has changed so that you can take care of your baby and take care of yourself, and some of your senses have heightened so that you can smell danger, so you can smell some food that's off and tell, you know. So some of these things are helpful, but we don't see them as helpful. We see them as, you know, harmful. But changing that perspective and realizing that some of these changes are absolutely fascinating and are for our survival, I think can also be a bit nourishing for a woman to realize that.
Absolutely. And I think a huge thing to take away from learning about the 4th trimester is learn about the 4th trimester. You know, make it a normal, really important part of your birth plan. You know, we're all taught, you know, how would you like fairy lights on? Would you like incense on? Let's talk about the most important part after birth. That's how can you heal and therefore mother your children. You know, that's really important. And I think this is why I talk about it so much, because I still hear this rhetoric. It's even yesterday I spoke to someone and she said, yeah, it's really expensive to birth at home, isn't it? I might just sign up at hospital just, you know, and see what happens. I'm like, this is a big life-changing decision. You should invest all your money into this. You know, forget about the expensive wedding, forget about eating out, forget about the holiday. This is it, because how you heal from this really changes you as a human, as a woman, as a mother, and how you also work as a family dynamic, in my opinion, because how much really, what does your partner understand about the 4th trimester? He really needs to be part of that. My partner has learned a lot during this time. What happens, men, how can they understand oxytocin? How can they understand that on day 5 you're starting to cry uncontrollably, and they're like, what? Like, stop asking me what's wrong.
Am I going
to cry? You know,
how do I take care of her?
You know, and you haven't done the laundry, and now I will cry about this for 3 hours. We kind of need to make that normal. And also for men, I found men in particular really thrive on having given direction and things that they can do to help. I can't expect someone to read my mind in my circle at all, in my birth circle. They need to know, what do you want to cook? What do you want me to cook? What do you want me to do? I think that's where the communication is so important with your entire birth team.
Yeah.
Do you
and
find
I think
that
this is such a great point? We need.
Sorry, you go.
Sorry, Joyce.
No, you go.
No,
you go.
it's that we look at this birth process as it's holistic, right? It's like it's from conception through to pregnancy, birthing, and beyond, and how we preparing for that time and understanding what those changes are that are going to be happening before we've had our baby, because again, that provides that ease of knowing what's happening straight after. It's not like thought about anything else. So I always liken it to like any big life event, like any big life transition that we're going through. You plan and prepare and you train, actually you're training for that event, and you're also preparing for your recovery after. And that is what the postpartum is about. It's your recovery, it's bonding, it's the adjustment for the whole family, so what does that mean for you? And I think, like what Kait said, everyone has a different idea of what is actually going to fill them up and produce those feel-good hormones. But you might have been like a super active person before having baby, and then you've given birth and you actually want to be in solitude. You want to have that really sacred place in your home. You don't want to be out and about. But other people, you want to go out, you want to go for a walk or what have you. But it's about tuning into what feels good for you and being okay with saying no. I talk about the loose yes. Everything's a loose yes. Like, don't stress yourself out. If you think, oh no, I really want to get to, my daughter's friend's birthday party like 2 weeks after having baby because it's going to be really great for her. It's like, it's a time where it's about you as mum. So everything's a loose yes. If you wake up in the morning and you've had a rubbish night, don't do it, because you'll feel better for it not doing it. It's about bringing that empowerment to knowing that no one's getting into your home at 3 a.m. to help you after you've had a massive day at someone else's whatever, so the way that you choose to do this is unique to you, and you don't get a rerun of this postpartum. This is like unique in itself.
Absolutely. Is there just as on a really kind of back to the kind of food side of it, are there certain things that we should maybe totally avoid, just to kind of make it super easy for some families, to write that shopping list and start, especially if you're on a budget? What can we kind of buy that will last, that won't last, that we can freeze, that we can start prepping and start filling our freezers with? And what are some foods that you would suggest to maybe totally avoid, other than the cold and the hot, but obviously processed food, but dairy and that sort of stuff? Are we staying clear? Are we adding it? What are your thoughts?
I would, on a budget, I would say some of the staples that you can have are your rice, white rice, especially. This is a time that white rice is beautiful. It's so easy to digest. It's sweet. So rice, your staples like rolled oats, millet, lentils, all those are very easy to digest and very cheap. They last forever. You can cook them and freeze them. Things that you'd maybe avoid, honestly, it depends on your specific digestion. Your digestion will be slightly weaker when you do have your baby. But from an Ayurvedic perspective, and Jenna, I learned a little bit about this in nutrition as well, so I'm sure you have something to say as well. But the dairy can be okay for some if it's a full fat dairy in small amounts, if you tolerate that. If it's, warmed and adding some spices to it, that can really help with digestion. So maybe not, your cold low fat yogurt, but some warmed milk in your porridge or in your rice is completely fine for most people. But things that I would probably really avoid would just be your cold, hard, raw vegetables. So raw crunchy carrots or cruciferous vegetables, or lots of salad greens. Those are really going to take a lot of energy. And I just think of it in the way of, if something is using a lot of energy in my belly, in my digestion, it's taking away from some of my healing, and it's taking away from my energy stores for me to be a mum, to breastfeed, to do all the things. So really trying to think about the least amount of digestion. So if you're cooking your food, that's pre-digesting. If you're soaking your food, if you're doing all of these things to help lower the energy required to digest your food, that's great, and you're doing it great. And simple food is perfect. So it really doesn't have to be extravagant. So cheap and simple is really easy to do postpartum, actually.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jenna?
Absolutely. I would say, from that dairy perspective, quite often we think, oh my goodness, no, we can't have dairy, it's going to impact my breastfeeding. Again, it's like how everything works in relationship to one another. So from an Ayurvedic perspective, we use ghee for all of our meals, and ghee is dairy, but it's clarified butter, but it removes the lactose. So if it was a preference not to have dairy, but bring ghee into your world, you won't regret it. But that, ghee costs a lot. You can make your own, or get coconut oil. You can put a tablespoon of coconut oil in with your rice and cook it. When you cook your rice, just have your coconut oil in there, so it's bringing that oily sweet. It's nice. You can also have rice pudding, so you're not just having just rice with something else, so that it's anything that goes in. We're also talking, we want it to be easy out, right? We don't want to be straining. And if you're, because your digestive system is sluggish, if you're eating foods that are hard to digest, one, you're not getting the nutritional benefit of it because your body can't break it down to get the energy from it. And two, it's going to go, when you're having your bowel movements, it's going to hurt. And I don't even need to spell it out, but it's it's been, you want it to be a nice, easy process when you're going to the bathroom.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, I had to have a little breastfeeding break there for for my little one. In my postpartum journey, I have to say I've really become aware of adding more fats to my diet, full stop. That's so, again, maybe a Western society thing that everything has to be low fat. And in fact, we cook everything now with ghee. I add ghee to our rice. I add, certain spices to our food to get our system heated up. So that's really interesting that we kind of rewire our thinking about a lot of things. How we nourish our body postpartum. Let's forget about the weight loss, becoming your old self. You're never going to be that again. Number one, you're a mum now. So that's your physical body anyway. And that can come at a much later stage. Breastfeeding is a huge exercise. You're burning so many calories. And just even honestly, the after the contractions I had after having given birth, which for me, I had two really, on paper, smooth, fast labors. One was 5 hours, one was 4 hours. And but goodness me, no one really could prepare me for what happens afterwards to my uterus. I was like, what is this? This is how mean. I've just done all of this.
Yeah.
Now I'm breastfeeding, and every time I was feeding, it would just contract. And I'm like, when is this going to stop? And I remember my midwife for my first birth said, oh, if it's kind of hurting now, be prepared for the second, which I'd obviously completely forgotten about by the time I had my second. And thank goodness I had help, so I didn't have to move, so I could dwell.
Yeah.
How mean postpartum contractions are.
It's a cruel joke, those afterbirth pains.
Honestly,
just not expecting it at all.
Not at all. And each time I would feed, it would happen. And I'm like, this is a joy. The milk was coming in, so this was kind of getting a little bit of its own workout, whilst the contractions were still happening. But, you know, I got to moan about it in my own home.
Yeah.
I didn't have to move far to get any of my supplies. So that's kind of the beauty of creating that sacred space in your home with your own sacred people. Unfortunately, our doula couldn't attend 2 of our postpartum meetings because we live where I live in the Northern Rivers. We're really close to the Queensland border, so she wasn't able to cross anymore. But I work in the birth world, so I was prepared with lots of nourishing foods. But yeah, be maybe prepared for the unexpected in your 4th trimester, like after pains.
Yeah. And going back to the fat, the nourishing fat piece as well, from a nutritional perspective, fats are incredibly healing. I mean, your ligaments and your joints and everything is still in a very much, they're very relaxed due to progesterone and relaxin. So they need a lot of healing, and you've got a lot of a lot of bleeding, a lot of, if you had any tears or anything like that. Fat is really the fat and proteins are really the basis of healing and recovery. So fats also help with your hormone production. So if you don't have fat and some cholesterol, you won't be able to totally heal and balance out those hormones. So feeling supported, feeling happy, that is going to help with your balancing out your healing and your weight loss, which naturally will happen. You're not pregnant anymore, but not in a I need to lose weight way, but more just naturally happening. But you really need that for that to happen. So it's really, really important after birth.
Fantastic. And do you guys want to just quickly chat about your own business? How can people get hold of you? How can they reach you? What areas of Sydney do you work closely in? How can we circulate our money?
Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, all right, Kate, thank you. So Meals for Mummas, we are currently delivering to Sydney, Newcastle and the Central Coast. We do a weekly delivery. Sorry, that's my feedback coming back to me. So we do a weekly delivery to all of those areas. You can head to our website or follow us on Instagram. It's Meals4Mummas on Insta, and it's our website is the same, www.meals4mummas.com.au. We also run free online postpartum planning evenings once a month, where we kind of talk about this stuff in a little bit more detail, just to help you look at all the corners that's really going to support you throughout that time. So yeah, that's pretty much the main ones. We're looking at extending our delivery areas so we can reach more of New South Wales, but at the moment they're the main ones.
And we have sent Jenna's amazing meals around, and the brownies are getting raving reviews. So a must for your 4th trimester, I would say.
Good. I'm still eating them.
As am I. I eat brownies all the time.
Postpartum is forever.
So good. Thank you.
And Kait, can we just hear about your My Earth Mama wellness? Are you frozen?
Yes, I feel like my internet is on its last line. I don't know what's happening. So sorry if I'm cutting out. Am I cutting out?
You're back.
Okay. So My Earth Mama Wellness. So my business, I do birth doula and postpartum doula visits. So lots of visits with mum to help with meals, help around the house, help with baby, all those things are part of my services. I have partnered with one of my clients, actually, my first doula client. She runs a cafe out of Collaroy on the Northern Beaches called Imperfect Nutritionist. And we partnered together to create postpartum meals as well. So she already was running a meal delivery service, a meal prep service. And we've designed, I have designed these specific recipes and meals for new mums, taking all the nutrients and digestion in mind. So you can order those from Imperfect Nutritionist in Collaroy. I think they manage most of the Northern Beaches and bits of Sydney. So yeah, you can order through them or pick up in Collaroy.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and educating us all. I'm going to try and put that picture up. You get $50 off with Active Truth. You have to scan the QR code. Please, if you'd like, buy raffle ticket for $20. It helps us immensely, and you're in the running to win a whole week's worth of food from Jenna. That'll be amazing. So thank you, ladies, so much for participating today. I'm going to try and do this picture. This is recorded for everyone. It will go on our website, homebirthnewsouthwales.org.au. So anyone can listen to this at a later stage that didn't have a chance today. And I'm gonna hang on. Okay, give me 1 second. Jesus. Think. How can I do this? If anyone knows how to add, share content. Here we go. And here we go. Done. Can everyone see that?
Yeah, good job.
Okay, fantastic. It's been recorded. I've shared it. Lovely to see you all. And have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. Happy postpartum, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.